growing population on the go. According to the U.S. Census Bureau's annual American Community Survey, Americans spend an average of 50 minutes a day commuting to and from work, with 61% of workers with long commutes driving alone. As a car-loving culture, we spend a lot of our time on the road. While our cars can be like second homes to us, it's important that we know just exactly what we're doing as we cruise through our daily routines. According to a study from the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, as of 2009, there were estimated to be over 254.4 million registered passenger vehicles in the United States. This number has been constantly increasing since 1960. What does all this mean besides more traffic on the roads? From the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the average annual greenhouse gas emission per passenger vehicle is 4.75 metric tons of CO2e per year. That's almost the equivalent to the space of 5 two-story homes.
Particularly matter because of its small size. You know, it's about 2.5 microns to about 10 microns. Very, very small. They're able to lodge inside, deep inside of your lung tissues and irritate your lungs. And so we also have the particulate matter, that's a big issue. And then we also have ground level ozone. So when you have volatile organic compounds and other chemicals that go up into the air, they have a chemical reaction and create ground level ozone. And so our families and children are breathing those. Those are strong lung irritants, and they're contributing to the asthma rate. Not only that, but we have pregnant women who are breathing that air, and those babies in utero during their most precious time of development are being impacted by that. And most of them, we know, sometimes throughout their life will have some form of asthma as a result, or some kind of respiratory illnesses as a result of that. A lot of us do not have a clue about what is in our environment and what is in our air. We think we're sick just because we're sick, and we don't have a clue that the coal burning plant that's down the street from us or in the backyard of us is actually causing us to be sick. So talk to each other. The chemicals and the compounds that we use inside of our indoors are also causing a problem. Another issue that is big on my heart is the transportation, and the mobile sources are a big factor because most of our children are located near freeways, and the closer proximity you are to a freeway, the worse your asthma is. And a lot of people don't know that. And is that something that they can do something about? I don't know. There's certain things that we can do in the home to kind of mitigate the factors, but just bringing awareness to those issues. Cleaner air and cleaner vehicles is very, very important. Not having those diesel trucks that run right through our community really pollute our air and really cause a lot of problems, because we know the diesel fuel contains a particulate matter which lodges deep in your lungs and causes the asthma as well.
Rain is always slightly acidic because it mixes with naturally occurring oxides in the air. Unpolluted rain would have a pH value between 5 and 6. When the air becomes more polluted with nitrogen oxides and sulfur dioxide, the acidity can increase to a pH level of 4. Some rain has even been recorded as being a pH level 2, the same level as lemon juice and vinegar. While forests and bodies of water can feel the catastrophic effects from acid rain, vehicles, buildings, statues, even cables can be worn down too. The worst affected are things made from limestone or sandstone, as these types of rocks are particularly susceptible to erosion and can be affected by air pollution in a gaseous form as well as by acid rain. The acid can also take the form of snow, mist, and dry dust. The dry dust can cause respiratory illnesses such as asthma. Is it a coincidence with the growing number of cars and increased amount of emissions we've seen an increased rate in asthma and other respiratory ailments? Robert Wallach, chronic disease epidemiologist from the Michigan Department of Community Health, weighs in on this dangerous relationship.
Over the past 20 years, asthma rates, as far as hospitalization rates and emergency department rates, have been going up. There's been a lot of research done looking at exposure to the pollutants that come from automobiles and how it can exacerbate asthma. We did some research here with the University of Michigan looking at distance to roadways, and then you're looking at things like carbon monoxide, oxides of nitrogen, you're looking at sulfur dioxide, particulate matter, ozone, all those things, and you're looking at distance from roadways, and it does matter. EPA has a program on school bus idling, Clean School Bus USA it's called, and it's a whole series of things that schools and school districts can do to decrease the level of diesel exposure to kids. Well, and teachers. And there's things like, you don't want one bus driving right behind the other while they're both running. Actually, Okemos School District got a grant from EPA a couple years back to retrofit a bunch of school buses so that they burn cleaner, and they actually work with a lot of districts around the state to have buses that burned cleaner.
On an individual scale, quick changes can be made for a healthier tomorrow. Instead of hopping right into your car, consider riding a bike, taking a bus, walking, or ride sharing. The Mid-Michigan Environmental Action Council is encouraging residents to use sustainable forms of transportation for a healthier you and a healthier planet.
The one thing that I would draw your attention to, though, is the increase in people using public transportation. We jumped from like 3% to 6%. And a lot of that has to do with the connectivity that we have, and we continue to add to that. I mean, right now we're looking at, we have our Capital Community Bike Share coming online this year again, and those hubs of bikes are going to be at the CATA stations, at major stations. Our region has so thoroughly embraced bike commuters by adding so many new bike lanes and bike facilities. I mean, look at the use on the Lansing River Trail. And we've added lanes and lanes and lanes of, miles of bike lanes. We built the first complete streets in Lansing proper on Washington Avenue south of 496, the first mile. And it has great bike lanes, signage. It's super walk friendly, bike friendly, but it's also car friendly. And the whole thing is that we can all live together. 100 years ago, when they were planning our roads in communities, if you had said, oh, well, we need to, for every single person to drive a car by themselves, they would have looked at you like you had 3 heads and a tail, that you were crazy. And so now, 100 years later, as we're doing our planning, we need to look at what the next generation is going to do. And we've only seen increases, in particular, in our public transportation use and in our bike commuting use.
On a larger scale, city planners, environmentalists, and large transportation companies are collaborating right here in the greater Lansing area to create more opportunities for smart commutes.
It's been a process that started 8 years ago, roughly, when we first received our first buses. They've actually, transformed and improved them as they've gone along. They've been well received by the operators. I think the riding public feels a difference when they get in them. I know that, like I said, I feel good about when they run through neighborhoods or run through downtown or anywhere in an area that they're fairly quiet. We have actually made some improvements to some of the components to actually make them even quieter and more efficient. So overall, I think it's been a good experience for us, and I think for our riding public. Basically, it's a series parallel hybrid. What that means is basically it runs on electricity parts of the time, and then it blends the mechanical side of the engine with the electricity to make it propel itself. This thing will still produce some emissions, but it's a reduced emission because the diesel engine is always running even when the hybrid unit is in full operation. The beauty of this is that where you see most trucks and buses, when they start from a dead stop and accelerate and you get that cloud of black smoke, having it launch on the electric side eliminates that. So there's where you're seeing the emission reduction. We've made a commitment to continue to expand our hybrid fleet as we go forward, so all the big buses that we have going forward are going to be hybrid.
As the number of hybrid buses in our community increases, the way they get around is going to have to change as well. A movement has been sweeping across the nation calling for safer and more accessible forms of transportation.
Complete Streets is a really awesome concept. What it says is that when you do transportation planning at the municipal level, is that you need to take into consideration the needs of non-motorized transportation users. That's a really long way of saying that when you're planning to either build or rebuild a road, not only do you need to figure out what's best for the cars, trucks, and other motorized vehicles, but you need to see what works for pedestrians and bicyclists. City of Lansing adopted the first Complete Streets ordinance in the state of Michigan in 2009, and in 2011 the state of Michigan adopted it as part of their policies. And lots of municipalities have adopted Complete Streets since then. And it's really heartening to see the folks embracing the idea that pedestrians and bicyclists have a place on our roads. Sidewalks are great, but we need to make sure those intersections are a safe crossing. And sometimes if it's a really long block, it's great to put in a mid-block crossing so people can get across the street rather than trying to walk a half a mile to cut across to then walk another half a mile. We need to make it accessible for everyone.
The Complete Streets program is also aiming to create more safe and convenient routes to school to encourage our youth to walk or bike instead of being driven in. To learn more about these issues and what you can do to make a world of a difference, visit midmichigansustainability.org. Thank you for joining us for this special piece on sustainability. Be sure to look for the next installment on foods, drinks, and healthy options growing right here in our backyard. I'm Andrea Mantakunas. Let's make a better tomorrow together.